against the mighty Atlantic in 54 days, 23 hours. Any moment now, in that self-same Atlantic rowboat of his, he'll be arriving at this jetty here, because typically and sportingly, he has agreed to help launch a new book by a fellow seafaring adventurer, but the plot has been changed since then. We've a lot of old pals in here, including the writer, and as you've seen, his family, Jill, and his two boys, 7-year-old James and 5-year-old Ryan, who have got loudhailers at the ready to give him his first happy shock. And when I say happy, I really mean happy, because nothing could mean more to his happiness than that family of his, bearing in mind that he himself began life in an orphanage. All set, boys. Now, the minute he gets here, you know what to do. I'm going to be a photographer for the next few minutes, at least hide my face with a camera. A large camera, thank you. He should be coming behind me, actually, any second.
Where you come from, eh? What are you up to? Oh, hello.
Thank you, everyone, for helping me to log this moment. My book, because this is the book I want to log it in, not that one just yet, so that I can say to man of adventure, courage, daring, Tom McClean, tonight, this is your life.
Thank you very much.
That's how I learned how our friends were here. Thank you, Joe.
Look for the camera. Go on, Mitch. And Philip, couldn't get you on the phone this morning.
I wonder why.
There you are.
Go on, Andrew.
Because we're going to head by land downriver to our studios. Lots more surprises. Let's all go. There's a lot more to come.
Hey, come on.
Well now, Tom, what did you think when we landed on you in the tranquil Thames River?
I didn't quite know what to think. It's a bit like landing in the jungle and not knowing what's going to happen next.
Well, Tom McClean, this is your life, and for a youngster who started in life without family or friends, we can see things are rather different these days with not only your family, but so many great pals of yours here tonight, so many of whom were there to welcome you at Falmouth in August. And also here, of course, that famous round-the-world mariner, Dame Naomi James, whose book, Courage at Sea, you came here to help launch. In fact, Dame Naomi, you devote a whole chapter to this character. Why?
Well, Tom epitomises courage at sea. He's sort of chap who pushes himself to the limit. Personally, I think he's a bit of a nutter, but he's pretty extraordinary with it.
Extraordinary indeed, Tom, and yours is a life of adventure. Even active service, as we gathered with the parachute regiment and the SAS in the deserts of Arabia and the jungles of Borneo, wasn't quite adventurous enough for you, which is why on May 17th, 1969, you set off from St. John's, Newfoundland, to become the first man in the world to row the Atlantic single-handed. And that was only the beginning. But your life of world headline-making achievement had a very unpromising start. Born in Dublin on the 10th of February 1943, you never knew your parents, and for the first 4 years of your life, you were cared for at a children's home in Dublin, a place far removed from something out of a Dickens novel, because the matron was motherly and kindly. Now, you stay there until a place was found for you at Fagan's Orphanage in Northamptonshire. Aged just 5, on a wet and windy winter day in 1948, with the label number 28 around your neck, and clutching a tiny cardboard suitcase, you boarded the mailboat from Dunleary.
Even then, Tom, you were such a brave little boy.
though we both had to fight back the tears.
The kindly matron of that children's home to whom you bade that sad farewell 40 years ago from her home in Dublin, Kay Glover. Kay, Tom spent 12 years at Fagan's orphanage in Northamptonshire, but he never forgot you and your family back in Ireland, right?
Never. When he could write, he wrote, and he came for the Christmases, and we looked forward to Tom coming home at Christmas. And there was one very special Christmas. He came home with a big parcel tucked underneath his arm, and it was a lovely little stool he had made for me, and it's coming in very useful now, Tom, as I'm getting older, and it's my most precious...
Your most treasured Christmas present, Kay, I know.
And they were my most treasured Christmases, too.
Kay, your son Adrian, but so far as you're concerned, Tom, your brother Adrian, and of course, his wife Audrey. And Kay, in 1976, you shared a very special day with Tom.
Yes, he asked me to be his mum at his wedding, for which I was very honoured to be asked. And I was very pleased to see he was getting such a beauty into the care of such a beautiful wife as his wife Jill.
Thank you, Kay, Adrian and Audrey Glover. Jill, Tom was in fact between adventures when you two met.
That's right. He was busy building his adventure centre, single-handed, of course. And I came on holiday to Scotland, and I met him there. And then I went back to my parents' house, and sure enough, 4 or 5 weeks later, he arrived on the doorstep.
And that was in Rotherham, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the Highland stranger my daughter met on holiday.
Jill's dad and Tom's most approving father-in-law, George, with Jill's sister Leslie and brother David. Kay, you were now, as you said, of course, his mother for the big wedding day.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, and I was delighted when you requested my presence in the role of your father.
Former Adjutant General of the Army and former ADC General to Her Majesty the Queen, he's broken his holiday to fly here tonight, General Sir Cecil Blacker. And there you are, General, with Tom, Jill, and Kay. How was it you stepped in as Tom's father?
Well, we'd become quite friendly, and I managed to give him a bit of help with his adventure trading centre, one way or another. And so I was very glad to go to his wedding, which is a lovely wedding. And I thought perhaps there needed to be a little reassuring might go on. I think the bride's side were a little bit anxious about what Jill was letting herself in for. And so I was able to reassure them on that. And I remember I did say that he was a man that once he decided to do something, he did it. And he decided to be a really good husband and father. And I think I was right. And I'm glad to say that I think that's what he certainly has been.
Thank you, General Sir Cecil Blacker. Tom, here you are as a tough-looking little tearaway, pictured age 6 while at Fagan's orphanage, and later as a guitar-twanging teddy boy and Elvis Presley look-alike. Now, every morning at 8:45, you and 30 other boys had to walk from the orphanage down the high street at Stony Stratford to school. Now, even at 15, still in short pants and regulation lace-up boots, getting catcalls from the town kids.
And no wonder, Tom, that's because we had to walk to school in a crocodile holding hands.
He was at Fagan's orphanage with you, Frank Patton. Frank, so on the way to school, the local boys sent you up.
Well, they did, and we used to walk down and remember Tom hand in hand together. But as I say, we were very good friends then, Tom. And we used to live with Auntie Kay in Dublin, which is a great lady. And as I say, we...
when he joined the army?
Oh, when he joined the army, you asked me who was next to kin, and you put my name, and I was very proud of that, Tom.
Thank you, Frank Patton. Leaving school and the orphanage, age 15, you try a number of jobs before settling down at Hartwell Hill Farm, Buckinghamshire. Happy days, Tom, when you get to know and love as a teenager the warmth and comfort of family life on the farm.
And Tom, you've been one of the family ever since.
Farmer John Venn himself with his wife Pauline, and the rest of the family where you found a home from home, their children Hilary, Cliff and Greg. Well, happy though you were at the farm, Tom, by the time you were 17 and a half, you decided it's time to move on. Already you're feeling the stirrings of a need for adventure, so you join the Parachute Regiment. In 1961, you head with the 3rd Battalion for a major NATO exercise in Greece. Next, you serve in Bahrain, where, strangely enough, it's your service in the desert that first sees you afloat. That's because someone has the daredevil idea of sailing a traditional Arab dhow. That's the very one, 100 years old, would you? 5,400 miles back to England. You're the first to volunteer and set off on a practice run 300 miles down the Persian Gulf.
And when you hit that violent storm, I thought we'd seen the last of you, Moby Dick.
Yes, you were right. Before he even spoke, you said Fiery Fred, paratrooper and padre, now parish priest at St. John's in Casablanca, where we located him, Fiery Fred Preston. Well, he guessed it was you coming, Fred, because it was your idea in the first place. But before anything else, why call him Moby Dick when he hadn't even been to sea before?
All right, we're full of nicknames in the Parachute Regiment, and they used to call me Charlie because I was the chaplain. And it was during a Padre's Hour, a character training program, that he was talking throughout the session. And I threw a piece of chalk at him, hit him, and I said, Moby Dick, if you don't stop spouting, I'm going to hit you with a harpoon next. And the name stuck.
But he did earn his sea boots that day on the Persian Gulf.
Right, and he needed them because there was a violent storm one night while this dhow was on a, what they call sea trials, just proving it before we ever set off. Mm-hmm. And during one night, black as ink, they sprang a plank. And it was leaking, and it would have sunk, we think. And an SE rescue craft set out from Bahrain to pick them up, but they didn't want to be rescued. And he refused to leave the dhow. And it was a direct order, and he, in the dark, had to leap from a dhow that was up here one moment, and the launch was up there the next, and alternating. And he was ordered to jump. He jumped and went straight over the other side into the sea, and had to be rescued for the second time. And thank God he came out of it well.
Thank you, Fiery Fred Preston. Your commanding officer, Dan, who cannot be here in person, was the Korean War hero of the Imjin River and the Glorious Gloucesters, and founder member of the Parachute Regiment. And if you look at that screen, here he is, known throughout the services as Farah the Para, General Sir Anthony Farrar Hockley.
Hello, Tom McClean. I'm very sorry I can't be in the studio with you tonight. I'm very glad indeed that you've got Padre Fred Preston there tonight, Fiery Fred. That dhow, which was suggested by Padre Preston as a means for some of you to get home, was a bit of a worry to me. I had to put £16,000 worth of insurance up of the battalion's money so that we didn't lose it if the dhow went down. We got a message from the radio that you were in a storm and that she was sinking. I do recall that you were rather anxious that we didn't rush too quickly to your aid. You wanted to be sure that it was actually going below the surface before you were taken off. But thinking of my £16,000 and your persons, out came the rescue launch. I do wish you very well indeed for tonight's gathering, and I have here a glass of whiskey. It comes to mind because I met you, you may recall, as you returned to Bahrain with a bottle of whiskey. I raise my glass to you with that whiskey, and the rest of it I'm asking them to pass over to you so you can have a nip when this is all over. And meantime, all the luck in the world.
Thank you, General Sir Anthony Farrar Hockley. Well, that escape on the Arab Dhow didn't certainly put you off. I believe even now you don't wear a life jacket on your voyages.
Not life jacket, it's always lifelines. And for my family, I always put a rope around my leg as a secondary precaution.
Well, Tom, you see service in Borneo, then Malaya, then pass the grueling selection test for the SAS and head for Guyana for jungle training. Your welcome is a bite on the neck from a poisonous snake. Talk about 9 lives. But you certainly didn't believe you were running out of lives, because reading of 2 fellow paratroopers who had rowed the Atlantic as a twosome, you decided to seek their advice. And it was easy because they were in the same platoon. But could you do it?
Hang about, Moby. You want to row the Atlantic on your own? I doubt it.
One of the headline-making pair of paras, you served with them in the UK and in the Middle East, your former platoon commander, John Ridgway. So, John, what was your advice?
Well, I didn't think it was absolutely impossible. I was very worried. I'm sure Che was. We'd had it very difficult ourselves, and to think someone was going to try and do it on their own, well, we just worried about it a lot.
And Tom, Che Blythe, your former platoon sergeant, there you are with him and John here. He has to be in America tonight, but that veteran of seafaring adventures, Che Blythe, remembers he was in a similar mind to John here.
John, Tom, I'm very sorry I can't be with you tonight. You were so determined to cross the Atlantic that I thought the least I could do was to introduce you to the potential sponsors and the boat builders. And of course you proved us wrong, that you could do it. You're a real tough cookie then, and you're a real tough cookie now. Have a great night, you and Jill, Tom.
Thank you, Che Blythe and John Ridgway. So, Tom, on May 17th, 1969, you cast off for the first time from St. John's in Newfoundland to row the 3,000 miles to the west coast of Ireland. You rowed 12 hours a day, often through violent storms, suffering frostbite, salt sores, and painful blistering of the hands. Your only company is a shark that follows you part of the way, Tom. Did you think you were on its menu?
No, not really, but there's lots of them, and the thing is to be in the boat and keep them outside.
You took a picture of this one. I think you even gave the shark a name.
Bluey.
Bluey. But after 70 days and 7 hours, you reach landfall at Blacksod Bay, County Mayo. You drag your boat ashore and find yourself just by the lighthouse there at Blacksod Point. You knock at the door and announce yourself by saying, "Sorry to disturb you, but my name is Tom McClean and I've just rowed the Atlantic."
Rowed the Atlantic, have you? Pull the other one.
That same lighthouse keeper from that day at Blacksod Point 18 years ago, Ted Sweeney. Ted, tell me what happened after that first reaction from you.
Oh, when Tom got to the door, I brought him into the house, and he wanted to do a phone call. So I thought he'd need a stimulant, and I gave him a nice glass of malt and had one myself. And the next thing I got down to business, got on the phone. And hell let loose then. They were all ringing in, and poor Tom could only answer one at a time, as there was only one phone line. It was no automation then. And
then they all descended on the place, I gather.
All descended on the place.
And I understand that night there was a bit of a hoolie at Hennigan's pub.
We had a wonderful hoolie, one I never got over.
Thank you, Ted Sweeney. Thanks, Ted. Okay, in fact, you were the first person he telephoned from Ted's lighthouse.
Yes. And I was delighted. We were delighted, and we immediately set off for Blacksod Bay with the iron sweater. I promised to have knit for him if he came back alive.
Well, he did, and you did knit it for him.
And I just thank the Lord he did come back alive.
Well, inspired by the adventure centre set up by John Ridgway here, you leave the army and travel the country looking for the ideal place to set up your own centre. The moment you saw Arden Tea, that was it. You fell in love with the place. As I mentioned, the bonus was that you also fell in love with Jill, who happened to be on holiday nearby. Now, you rebuild the Crofter's cottage there. James was born there in May 1980, and Ryan at Christmas 1981. And Ryan, Dad has a special name for you, hasn't he?
Yes.
What does he call you?
Ryan the Lion.
Ryan the Lion. Why is that? That's right. 1982 was British Maritime Year, and you got another idea. To sail the Atlantic on the world's smallest yacht. Now, Claire Francis, recently turned novelist, you, of course, have also crossed the Atlantic single-handed, and you were the one who launched that 9 foot 9 inches mini yacht, right?
I certainly did, and it was the smallest thing I'd ever seen. It rocked alarmingly, and I didn't think it was ocean-worthy at all. But if anybody could get across the Atlantic in it, it was Tom McClean. I had every confidence in you.
But you almost didn't, Tom. After narrowly escaping being run down by a tanker, your radio calls were taken up by 2 Dutch people who were sailing their boat from the Azores, who took these pictures you've never seen before and bring you the much-needed water. But what's more, they're here tonight, Will and Lois Pennings.
Oh. Well done. Yes, very good.
I know, Tom, that you're never seasick on these trips as we human normal mortals are, but this trip I think you wrote that you were homesick.
Yeah, I get it a bit that now I'm married, you see.
Well, homesick or not, you complete that amazing voyage on the 12th of August, 1982. And not only that, in August 83, after 62 days at sea in an even smaller boat, an unbelievable 7 feet 9 inches, make history with yet another world record. In 1985, you survived for 40 days on the barren island of Rockall. And only last year, Tom, you read that your original record of rowing the Atlantic single-handed in 1969 had been beaten. So in mid-June of this year, you returned again, for the 4th time, to begin an Atlantic adventure from a place that by now has the warmest of memories for you, St. John's, Newfoundland.
Hello, Tom. Congratulations, boy. We're certainly glad you made it across. And here we are, the family, Jean, David, and Elizabeth, standing on the same waterfront that you sailed from on several occasions. And when we heard the news that you had successfully made it, I tell you it was a great relief.
We first met you, Tom, on Mother's Day in 1969. You came to our house for dinner that day, and we had roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, which you enjoyed very much. And then you stayed with us for about a week while you were preparing for your first Atlantic row. And I remember making sandwiches and a thermos for you so that you wouldn't have to brew up on your first day at sea. We wish you well, Tom, and take care, and God bless.
So, Tom, let's have 3 cheers to Tom McClean, who made the record, and all the best to him.
Your Canadian pop is, of course, here tonight, Harold Squires, and not by himself either. Harold's wife, Jean, their son, David, and their daughter, Elizabeth. That's Adam, whom the last time you saw was only 6 weeks old. Tom McClean, adventurer in a million. This is your life.